What's up, everybody? I'm Ari Temkin from 105.3 The Fan, and I'm broadcasting live right now on Phantom and on Law Nation via YouTube. So thank you to everybody checking this stream out, and I will get to all of your comments, questions, thoughts, opinions as we preview Cowboys and Bengals Saturday at AT&T Stadium tomorrow night. If you are going to be at the game, by the way, come say hello, as I will be broadcasting as part of the Dallas Cowboys pregame show out in front of the stadium, and check me out at 105 through the Fan locally or along the Dallas Cowboys radio network with Jesse Holly for the pregame show. Shout out to everybody on the Law Nation YouTube page, where I'll be streaming the show live every single day. Buck Burrell, Dallas Lee, Joseph Candelaria, Ethan Rhodes, Jeremy Shorter, Melvin Rojas. So just shout out to all you folks. I will get along to all the comments. Everybody's along across all the pages, but make sure if you're watching this to check out the Phantom YouTube page. Just search Phantom in YouTube, F-A-N-T-O-M, and then make sure to subscribe to the page for this and other great shows along YouTube. Cowboys X Factor says, "Hey Ari, Cowboys X Factor, how are you, sir?" All right, what are you all watching for out of preseason week number 1? I actually took my notes and put them over here, so hold on one second, bear with me. I also am really excited because Cowboys camp is now finishing up in Oxnard, meaning they'll be back in Dallas next week. So I'll be out at training camp next week from the Star in Frisco, and so I'm excited about that as well. Sorry, just trying to get everything in order here. All right, so post your comments. What are you looking forward to out of Cowboys and Bengals in preseason week number 2? There's certainly some things that we've seen in camp that we haven't necessarily seen in preseason week number 1 that I'll be looking for. Jeremy Shorter and Joseph Candelaria on the Law Nation YouTube page, both asking about Jalen Smith. Jeremy says, "Law, what do you think about Jalen so far this offseason? He's definitely been proving why he was just as talented as Zeke before his injury." Yeah, I mean, look, Jeremy, I for one was always sort of muted with my excitement on Jalen Smith because, I mean, we're talking about severe nerve damage that he suffered, where he couldn't, to the point where he couldn't feel his foot. And I mean, how can you go east-west, sideline to sideline, move laterally without the ability to feel your foot because of the nerve damage, the severe nerve damage that he had? And so even going into last year, I think there was some excitement for him. I think the most reasonable people expected that he wouldn't be great, but just the fact that he's on the field is an unbelievable story unto itself. And what we've seen so far through preseason week number 1 and in the month of training camp, basically, is this guy looks and is moving as well as we've seen him move since he's been with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, is he what he was at Notre Dame? No, and I think the expectation that he'll ever get back to that is probably far-fetched. But it's really amazing how far he's come. In such a short period of time. He's been really impressive. And earlier this week on my stream, I stream live every day at noon Central. So if you're on the Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page, just a heads up, I'm going to be streaming this live every day at noon Central. And earlier this week, I did, or was it yesterday? I can't remember. I did the top 5 players I've seen at training camp so far, and Jalen Smith was 3rd on my list. And he could have been higher. Zeke Elliott was 2, and Travis Frederick was 1 on that list. So Jalen's just been impressive. Eric Koshaney on the Phantom page comments, "You don't usually come back from drop foot. He's going to make a good 30 for 30 story someday." Yeah, and in fact, that's something I've talked about, Eric. I mean, just getting back on the field to play is a 30 for 30 unto itself. I mean, that's what I don't know that people realize is just for him to be back playing is an insane story. It's a sports story that's like up there with Rudy, just to play, but to actually be as productive as he could possibly be this year. I mean, that's incredible. By the way, I'm Ari Temkin from 105 through the Fan. Go ahead, hit the share button if you wouldn't mind. If you're watching on YouTube, post your comments. I'll get to them throughout. I want to thank you to all of our partners, including my buddy Lawrence Thomas from Law Nation. Salute to Law Nation on YouTube and on Facebook. Law is streaming live now at Law Nation 2.0. While his Law Nation original YouTube page is under construction. Also broadcasting live on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page. Shout out all you folks. Myra Keithley, my buddy Joe Tranchina, who's as avid of a streamer as anybody else, Eric Koshaney, G. Garcia, Andy Caius, Joe Tranchina. You guys are the best for coming out every single day at noon Central. Appreciate you. Ann Horn gives me the laughing emoji. I don't know why she's laughing, but okay. Joe Tranchina says what's most important about the preseason, which is let's just hope there's no injuries. Pierre Baptiste says we need a safety and O-line depth and another defensive tackle. Safety, yes. O-line depth, sure. Why not? And definitely another defensive tackle. I agree with you there. Andy wants to know if I ever watched The X-Files. Only the beginning, because The Simpsons would end and then The X-Files would start, and then I'd see the beginning. But as I gotten older, I've watched a few episodes, but I wasn't as big into it as other people were. August Wilson says, don't watch any football, never again, phony players and owners. Interesting. Sorry to hear that, August. This is, thanks for joining the stream. You're also part of the Dallas Cowboys America's Team page, so naturally there's going to be football talk on that page, but I digress. I just want to make sure I'm checking everybody's comments as I have to navigate all these different platforms and pages, so bear with me as I do that. Melvin Rojas on the Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page says, want Rico to get in reps. The interesting thing about Rico is, and obviously I've spent a ton of time throughout this preseason answering questions and talking about Rico gathers, and if you haven't seen me or seen any of my streams before, there seems to be a reason he's buried on the depth chart. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Maybe it's the inability to grasp sort of fundamental offensive principles. Whatever reason, though, he's in position now to not make this football team. I mean, the Blake Jarwin and Jeff Swaim are 1 and 2, and then Dalton Schultz, at least right now, is getting the nod because he's a draft pick, and they're not going to keep 4 tight ends. So, I think last season during preseason, there was a major need for Rico to get reps. When you look at their depth chart last season, Witten wasn't playing much of the preseason, so there was a lot of catches available to Rico Gathers in the preseason that aren't necessarily available to him in this preseason. Probably part of the reason he blew up as much as he did last year. Ethan Rhodes says he's bigger and smarter now and moving very, very well. I think he's probably a better football player overall now. Yeah, I mean, look, again, it's a very curious situation. I don't understand it entirely. I've talked about this a lot. You need, in the modern NFL, you need big targets in the red zone at the tight end position. I attributed a lot of the Eagles' success last year. They were so good in the red zone. They cashed in so often in the red zone, and a big reason for that, when you look at the metrics, was simply because they targeted their tight end so consistently in the red zone. And they had good tight ends. Now, they lost Trey Burton to the Bears, but they added Dallas Goedert in the draft as a second-round pick, so they should be as good. My point in saying all this is the Cowboys don't have pass-catching tight ends on their roster, at least from when you look at the outline of their 53, and Gathers isn't really on it. Whether you agree with it or not, he's not. So they've got Jarwin and Swaim, and we've seen them in red zone drills in practice throughout training camp try and target Swaim and Jarwin in the red zone to no avail. So, I mean, you need to have a tight end as a matchup in the red zone. So because there's such a mismatch with their size and inability for teams to really match up with that size in such a confined space. So the modern NFL, like when you look at the NBA, and coaches seem to catch on with the importance of the corner three, and that it's basically the best shot in the NBA because it's the shortest three-pointer distance-wise, and it's obviously worth the most points. And I think tight end in the red zone is one of those sort of misused elements of football where teams don't necessarily understand the value of using a tight end in the red zone. But you look at the best red zone offenses in the NFL last year, Patriots, Eagles, teams that utilize their tight ends consistently in the red zone. So that's all to say, Gathers would seem to be a really good red zone target, and yet, again, he's not going to make this football team where he stands right now. And I don't know why. Is it because he doesn't know the route tree, he can't block, and he doesn't understand basic offensive principles? I'm not really sure, but it's bizarre to me, and it is what it is. Jeremy Mandel in the house. What up, Jeremy? How are you? Let's see here. Just trying to check in all Law Nation 2.0 comments. Salute. Law's in Jackson, Mississippi right now, where he's from. He's not from Jackson. He's from Natchez. Am I supposed to say that? Am I supposed to give that away, buddy? Anyways, he's from small town Mississippi. but he's back home in Mississippi right now. So salute to you, Law, and thank you, and all of the people from Law Nation checking this out on the Law Nation Facebook page and the Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page. Make sure to also check out Phantom's YouTube page, where we've got great NFL content. So make sure to subscribe at youtube.com and then check out, just search Watch Phantom, Phantom. Michael Ruff comments, Jarwin and Swaim, Noah Brown for red zone if you can get in the field. Yeah, I'd be surprised if Noah Brown makes this football team, because the 5 receivers that are a lock to make this roster are Allen Hurns, Tavon Austin, Cole Beasley, Michael Gallup, Terrence Williams. They're only going to keep 6. So you basically have Noah Brown, Lance Lenore, and Deontay Thompson fighting for their final spot. And you could argue Deontay Thompson and Lance Lenore, really, considering Noah Brown hasn't really been much on the field at all in the preseason. Team Ortiz Boxing says, you don't know Jack. Interesting. Go on, Team Ortiz Boxing. He will make this team, says Rico Gathers. Well, who is he making it over then, Team Ortiz Boxing? And I'm not. It's not that I'm saying he shouldn't make this team. I'm saying they're not going to keep 4 tight ends, and he's the 4th tight end right now. Jeremy Pearlstein says, I want to see more from Lance Lenore. I think he has a chance, right? Yeah, I mean, again, the 5 that are going to make the roster, we know that are locks to make this roster: Austin, Beasley, Gallup, Allen Hurns, Terrence Williams. So it's basically between Deontay Thompson and Lance Lenore for that final spot. And Lenore has been the best. Like, if you're going off of what we've seen in camp, Lenore is the 6th guy. But I think Deontay Thompson Deontay Thompson is in good position to make this roster simply because he was a major free agent acquisition. Jeremy Mandel says on the Phantom page, it's cool, no big tight end for the red zone. It's cool as long as you have an accurate quarterback. Fair. Joseph Candelaria says 7 wide receivers. I suppose they could potentially keep 7 wide receivers. I wanted to sit through today and kind of go through a rough outline of their 53, and I won't bore you with that, but I've basically made out 40 locks for their roster. 40 locks for their roster. There's probably another 5 to 10 that are, close to locks, but you could put on there will probably make it. So, I mean, you're basically talking about 4 or 5 guys that are, in preseason week number 2 and preseason week number 3 are trying to carve out a roster spot. All right, checking back into the America's Team page, Dallas Cowboys America's Team page on Facebook. If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and hit the share button. If you're watching this on Facebook, that'd be great. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for doing that. Please post your comments. Keep posting your comments, and I'll get to them eventually. But hit the thumbs up button on YouTube. That's just like hitting the share button, the thumbs up, or hit thumbs down. Although don't, but do if you don't like me. That's a fair. If I give you the offer and the opportunity to hit the thumbs up on YouTube, I certainly have to give you the opportunity to not like me and hit the thumbs down. But I mean, I'd like the thumbs up, even if you don't like me. You can give me the thumbs up. It always helps. All right, let's see here. Checking back in again on the Dallas Cowboys America's Team page. Sergio Delgado says it's our year. LOL. Obviously. Dylan Rabb says, what kind of workload do you see for running back Rod Smith? A heavy workload. Zeke is not going to play this week. He mentioned earlier this week in camp that it'll be a similar plan to what they did last year for Zeke, which is he'll play a little bit in preseason week number 3 next week, Sunday Night Football against the Arizona Cardinals. So I think we'll see a heavy dose of Rod Smith, a heavy dose of Darius Jackson, and a heavy dose of Bo Scarborough. A lot of people have been asking me about Bo Scarborough, and I mentioned, if he can contribute and become a meaningful contributor on special teams, he'll make this roster. The reason they brought back Darius Jackson was because they knew he could play special teams. They knew he can contribute, production-wise out of the backfield. And so what we saw in preseason week number 1 was, I think Bo Scarborough was on the field for over 50% of their special team snaps. Plus, he ran well. So, from what I've seen right now, I think Bo Scarborough's a pretty, a lock to make this team. And obviously people are excited about him because he's a big name and people know about him. So I think we're going to see a heavy load from Rod Smith, from Bo Scarborough, Darius Jackson, and then maybe Jameis Olawale, who I think is another lock to make this team. They're probably going to end up keeping 4 running backs, as Jameis Olawale will count there. Melody Richardson says, go Cowboys, have a great season. Roger DeSapio says, wake me up on the 9th. Are you going to sleep that long, Roger? Man, Roger, you're not excited at all for tomorrow's? To me, the preseason isn't very exciting. I get that. But the two games to be excited about in the preseason, if there ever were two games to be excited about in the preseason, are these 2 weeks, week 2 and week 3 of the preseason. All right, let's see here. Andy Kai says, you don't know Jack is a super fun trivia game. Andy Kai says, who needs to know line? Just put 7 receivers out there. Eric Koscielny says, did you guys watch practice? Dak was throwing bombs accurately. He has the deep ball this year. Why? What are people saying about Dak? The Cowboys are making a very, very concerted effort to get Dak Prescott the ball down the field in practice. I mean, they are, and that's, I'm going to break down the things that I'm specifically watching for, but I did want to make sure I'm answering as many questions as I possibly can. Dan Dahlgren says, does Randy Gregory steal a spot from the defensive line? You mean on the roster? No, Dan, I mean, he's a lock to make this team. In fact, when he's practiced and lined up with this team, he's lined up at the ones. So, I mean, not only is he a lock to make this football team, I mean, he's a starter, and he's looked good in practice. So, Andy Kai says TJ would thumbs down Ari. Who would thumbs down Ari? No one. TJ would thumbs down Ari. Thank you, Jenna. I appreciate that. It's very nice of you. It's good positive reinforcement there, Jenna. Jenna Garcia on the Phantom page. Jenna Garcia does great work with us here at Phantom, so make sure to check out what she's got going on Instagram, on Facebook, and you'll start to see more and more of her in the ensuing weeks. We also have some big things going on at Phantom that we're really excited about and we're working towards. So make sure to subscribe on YouTube to the Phantom page and check us out at facebook.com/watch Phantom. We are delivering live sports and live sports content to the digital space. Wherever you are, we are. Robert Holm is in the house on the Silver and Blue Nation page. Billy Lee is also in the house. Says, what's up? Things that Robert Holm is watching for is Randy Gregory, safeties, defensive tackle depth, down line wide receivers. Yeah, Gregory mentioned that he would suit up. Yesterday on the stream, I said I didn't think we'd see him until week 3, but he mentioned yesterday after practice that he thought he would play this week, so leave it up to him to contradict me moments after my stream yesterday. But yeah, I'm also excited to see Randy Gregory. What we've seen from him in camp is phenomenal. He looks great. He's in great shape. I also think NFL players have so much wear and tear in their body, and the fact that he's basically taken 2 full seasons off, he's got a very fresh body, which is really, really important and probably overlooked component here. Kevin Melton says, we need a quarterback is what we need, and then he's sleeping, which is interesting. Okay. Billy Lee says, I want to see if Randy is worth the wait, if Tavon is better wide receiver than giving credit for, and I like Tyron Smith. Let's see here. Trying to see the rest of the comment. I'll spend 15 minutes trying to find this. Yeah, I mean, Randy Gregory is definitely something to be watching for, especially if he's going to play. Josh Phillips in the house. What up, Josh? Jap CJ. How are you, brother? How are things in Denver? I should hook you up with TJ and Jenna and all my friends in Denver because Jap CJ is one of my really good friends from college who now lives in Denver. Jenna Garcia says, give us Asher, then no one would thumbs down. Jen, I think you're the only one that wants to see Asher. Nobody post comments on that, please. Robert Holmes says, Dak's a baller, check stats. Sheagles need a new quarterback now, ha ha ha. Yeah, what was the latest? I thought I saw that it wasn't much as far as the Nick Foles injury, but does anybody have the latest on that? I mean, he's going to be fine, right? Josh says, heading camping in Vail in a few hours. That sounds like fun. That's awesome. Dak spelled backwards is Cam. Cam Chancellor's a player who used to play with Earl Thomas. Dak spelled backwards is Cad, but close, Jeremy. Very close. All right, checking back into the YouTube page for Law Nation 2.0. I'm trying to get caught up on everything going on here, so my apologies there. I really wanted to see C.J. Wilson, says Jeremy Shorter. C.J. Wilson, the former Rangers pitcher. Interesting. Melvin Rojas says, what's your thoughts on the running backs? I think I kind of answered that, Melvin, so I'm kind of going back just to make sure. But, earlier streams I was kind of talking about Scarborough as being on the bubble to make this roster. And, I certainly think what we've seen so far, his ability to play on special teams and contribute, he's the third guy. He's going to make this roster, which is good. Janiqua Russell says, anybody else excited to see Randy Gregory hit the field? No, I think everybody's really excited for that. Mitch says, what's up? What's up, Mitch? Jeremy Pearlstein says, what do you think about LVE so far? Look, he hasn't blown me away, but I also think, when you say that, it almost seems like, you're you're being negative on him, and I don't want it to come off like that. I mean, I think he's been fine. He's been adequate, and I think, I mentioned this in my Cowboys Beat podcast. If you are into Cowboys podcasts, check out the Cowboys Beat on iTunes or Stitcher or CLNS Media, wherever you get your podcasts. But I brought this up. The offensive line is the best positional group on the Dallas Cowboys. There's no question about that. Offensive line is the best positional group. But the second best positional group, in my opinion, is the linebacking core. And they have showed out in a big way at training camp in preseason week number 1. They flew around the football. Joe Thomas was on the 105 through the Fan Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, was our post-game show player of the game for his 5 tackles, tackle for loss, interception. So, I think when you look at Sean Lee, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, Joe Thomas, Damian Wilson, will Justin March Lillard make this football team? I mean, there's some depth there, and that's not been a strength of the Cowboys in recent history. Michael Ruff says best D-line since 95, maybe. Let's see here. Just trying to get caught up on all the comments. I like 64 Antoine Woods. That's from Joseph Candelaria. What do you think about Taco in the preseason? I'm not big on Taco. In fact, last year on my radio show, I used to host a radio show in San Antonio, and last year we had a segment every Tuesday. It was called Taco Tuesdays, and we played Despacito and just went through his stats, kind of making fun of him. I for one, he wore tacos on his cleats in week 1 last year, and it was like, you got to do something before you can put tacos on your cleats, dude. So I'm not very optimistic about Taco, but here's the deal. So they've got DeMarcus Lawrence on one side. He's a beast. He's going to command double teams. So Randy Gregory and Dorrance Armstrong, 2 guys I am big on, they're going to feast. So you look at that rotation, where you've got those 2 plus Taco. Now less is being expected of him, whereas it seemed like last year there was a ton of expectations for him and he underperformed. I sort of think like Jalen Smith, where there was high expectations for him last year, and he outperformed, or he underperformed relative to expectations. I think both Taco, and Jalen Smith can outperform expectations this year. However, I'm probably more likely to think that Jalen will as opposed to Taco. Yeah, Kevin Beck says Dorrance looks quicker than Taco. Yeah, I mean Dorrance Armstrong is a beast. Rock Chalk Jayhawk. He is great speed, great motor. He's got really polished moves. You'll see, if his initial burst doesn't get him past, he's got a bunch of different, swim move, a spin move. So he looks like, in everything we've seen so far, a absolute steal for the Cowboys. So, that's when you factor in him, how good he's looked with Randy Gregory. And now you're looking at what DeMarcus Lawrence will get with double teams and what that will open up on single coverage on the outside for Dorrance and DeMarcus, or Dorrance and and Randy Gregory. Man, it's you really start to get excited about what this pass rushing rotation can be. Tony Graham gives me the thumbs up. Andy Caius, I think C.J. Wilson is a semi-professional race car driver now. Is that true? The former pitcher is now a semi-professional race car driver. Interesting. Eric Koshaney on the Phantom page on Facebook says Joe Thomas is going to be a force this season. Team Ortiz Boxing, who says that I don't know Jack earlier, now says I think Tavon can beat Cole for his spot. I'd rather have Tavon on the field more than Cole. He's more explosive. Cole is shifty and get open, but as far as Yak and Rack, he's blah. So far, what we've seen is they're starting X is Allen Hurns, they're starting Y, slot receiver is Beasley, they're starting Z is Michael Gallup, but the fourth receiver is a second Y in Tavon Austin, and they have Tavon and Cole lined up on opposite slots. So I don't know that I disagree with you, Team Ortiz Boxing. What I will say, however, is we're going to see a lot of Tavon Austin. We're going to see a lot of him. So whoever starts, sure. But, I mean, we're going to see Tavon get carries out of the backfield. We're going to see him line up on the inside, line up on the outside. They've been using him a ton on go routes down the field. So, whereas we've seen a little bit with that with Beasley, I think, because of the speed and explosiveness of Tavon, he's going to be a deep threat for this team this year. Or they're at least going to try to have him be a deep threat for the team this year. G. Garcia says, we need to do something about the safety issue. Yeah. Agreed. John Dyer says, wait, T. Will isn't starting? No. Gallup is the starting Z from what we've seen, but T. Will's had a good camp. Team Ortiz Boxing says, what's the difference between Cole and Switz and Cole and Tavon? I don't know. I mean, Tavon hasn't shown much throughout the course of his career so far. Switzer only had 1 year and didn't look great. I mean, I think so. I made this point right after the draft. You can tell they drafted Switzer to be what they wanted. What they have Austin to be. And Switzer didn't really work out well in the back as a running back. I think they put Switzer in a tough spot. Switzer is not a running back, and they try to use him in some ways as a running back last year. Well, Austin has already been used by the Rams as a running back, so I feel like, they got rid of Switzer. They brought in Jihad Ward, who they like a lot, and then they were able to then get Austin for basically nothing, and he could do what they thought Switzer was going to be able to do. So, look, if Switzer has a big year with the Raiders this year, I'm sure it's going to upset some Cowboys fans, but at the same time, I think, they probably put Switzer in bad position because, they wanted him to be what Tavon Austin's going to be for them, which is a web back, a whatever back, Switzer, especially as a ball carrier, wasn't really set up to be able to be a quality guy and be able to do that. Let's see here. All right, checking back into the America's Team Facebook page, Dallas Cowboys America's Team. Shout out to everybody watching this and streaming this. I'm Ari Temkin from 105.3 The Fan. If you're in the DFW area, make sure to check me out on The Fan. I'm on periodically, but I will also be on this Saturday from the stadium. By the way, if you want to come to the game, here we go. How about SeatGeek? Go to SeatGeek.com or download the SeatGeek app and use promo code PHANTOM, F-A-N-T-O-M, and you're going to get $20 off your first order. So Cowboys Bengals tickets, I saw seats that were like row 3 in the 300 level for like $60 on SeatGeek. So you go to SeatGeek, you find those third row 300 level for $60. You get 2 tickets for $120. You get the $20 off. You're going to get 2 tickets for $100. At the row 3, level 300. Those are fantastic seats, 50-yard line. So go check it out. You want to go see the Cowboys in action for the first time this season at AT&T Stadium, and come say hi to me, where I'll be part of the pre- and post-game show, co-hosting along with Jesse Holly out in the Miller Lite area before the game, the West Plaza before the game. Come say hello. Make sure to pick up your tickets now at SeatGeek. Use promo code PHANTOM, F-A-N-T-O-M, right now, and you will get $20 off your first purchase. And again, there's really cheap tickets for tomorrow night's game if you want to get your first look at the Dallas Cowboys in 2018 in their first home game of the season. All right, just want to make sure checking out all the pages we're streaming on. Dallas Cowboys America's Team page. Shout out to all you folks watching over there. Tony Graham says, which wide receivers are best deep threat? Tavon Austin. They've been using a ton of him deep. Terrence Williams, we've seen him in practice catch some deep balls. Michael Gallup is a guy. I mean, I think ultimately Gallup will be one of their most targeted deep threats. But it's kind of be. When I talked to Sanjay Lal, their new wide receivers coach at training camp a couple of weeks ago, he basically said he's got all the receivers right now running all the routes and running inside, running outside, running everything. And he wants to see which guys run the best routes, which guys are in the best timing with Dak, and then they'll go from there. So I think what we've seen at camp, Gallup, T. Will, and Austin so far, their best deep threats. And we'll see what happens, when the season starts and where they target and who ends up, becoming the best. Nicky Barnes says hello. Mark Moore says hot boys, which I'm not a big fan of that nickname. He was talking about the defensive ends. Deborah Radford Guffey gives me the hard eyes. Hard eyes. Deborah Radford Guffey. I love them Cowboys. I love tacos. Oh, wait, LOL. But you're not a Taco Charlton fan. Mark Moore says Armstrong's a beast. Hot boys. We got to come up with a better nickname, don't we? Are they going to play Zeke? Nicky Barnes wants to know. I would guess no, because Zeke said this week in practice that they were going to stick with the same plan from last year, and if they do that, then he'll just play a few series in the dress rehearsal, which is next week. By the way, if you want to go to SeatGeek and get tickets for their dress rehearsal, which is always week 3 of the preseason, it'll be Sunday Night Football. So Sunday Night Football at AT&T Stadium, Cardinals and Cowboys, week 3 of the preseason, a week from this coming Sunday. Go to SeatGeek.com. It's over there. Mirror image. I'm stupid. It looks like over here to me, but it's obviously over here, and I don't know how to point. But anyways, go to SeatGeek.com, use promo code PHANTOM, and buy tickets for the dress rehearsal, where you're going to see the majority of I mean, it's going to be all their players, unless injury, that are going to be starting for this team this year. So the dress rehearsal is always the best game. That's going to be the week 3 of the preseason, Cardinals and Cowboys. So go to SeatGeek.com, search for tickets for that game at AT&T Stadium. Use promo code PHANTOM and get $20 off your first purchase. Nick Cate says exactly by the end of the year we'll be calling Austin WB whatever back. I don't know. We'll be I don't know why people think Austin's all of a sudden be something he's never been. He's been in the league 5 or 6 years. Oh, so you're saying you don't expect much out of Austin this year? I mean, look, the Cowboys, Jason Garrett, in recent history, I wouldn't say throughout the course of his time as the head coach, we haven't seen much creativity from him, but the knock on him has been that he telegraphs and that he's obvious to figure out. And there's not much creativity from Jason Garrett. Well, they said they've fixed that. Getting rid of Dez Bryant, having Jason Witten retire, that having those two guys command so many snaps and so much production that though people look at that as a positive, and certainly I see the positive aspects of it, the bigger piece to that would be that they're not able to be as multiple or creative because they have to work within the confines of those two guys. So the whole PR push this offseason has been they're going to be creative, and we've seen that in camp. Again, we've seen 10 personnel, which is new for the Cowboys. 1 running back, 0 tight ends, 4 receivers. We've seen 5 wide receivers at times in training camp. We've seen slot receivers line up at the outside. We've seen outside receivers line up in the slot. So we've seen creativity so far in training camp. I don't know how much we're going to see in the preseason because how much do you want to show? Don't you want to keep some of that a secret if you're the offensive play caller? But so far, so good from what they've been telling us and what we've been, what we've been seeing. And Nick, to answer your question, you hope that creativity opens up some more options for Tavon Austin. I know people are like, well, if Sean McVay, who is considered an offensive genius, can't get much out of Tavon Austin, what makes you think Jason Garrett will be? And I think it's completely different. I mean, I think at that point when Sean McVay took over the Rams, Tavon Austin was kind of on his way out. And so it wasn't like they were trying to install an offense to get him involved. They were trying to do other things. So I think that's kind of an incomplete rationale or reasoning for why it didn't really work for Tavon Austin and with the Rams. And again, I don't expect Tavon Austin to be an MVP or to have 1,500 yards receiving, but he certainly will be a more useful piece, I would think, with the Cowboys than he was with the Rams. Let's see here. John Dyer says, once I saw Switzer twerking on that Amazon Prime show, I was ready to trade him. Eric Kashani says they're probably waiting for cuts to let Richard select another safety. Yeah, no question. That's the fix to their safety issues, is waiting for final cutdowns to try to sort through the bargain bin. That's what Will McClay does best. They're already doing some advanced scouting on this, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of the teams, like if I were you as a Cowboys fan, look at some of these backup safeties on the Cincinnati Bengals and the Arizona Cardinals, because a lot of times when teams, GMs get a look of these teams and see these guys, they start to see things from these preseason games, and a lot of times teams will pick up guys at positional needs, whereas with other teams, they'll pick up these guys after final cuts on teams that they watched in the preseason. By the way, I'm also going to make a case for you making a bet on BetDSI for Jason Garrett to be Coach of the Year, so stick around for that. Jason Champlin wants to know when Gregory's going to play. He's going to play tomorrow night. That's what he said at practice yesterday, which made me look stupid because on my stream yesterday I said I didn't expect to see him. So Randy Gregory, certainly one of the things that I'm excited for Cowboys-Bengals tomorrow night, to see him and what's going on with that. Let's see here. Rick Federick, is that really your name? That's an awesome name. Rick Federick on the Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page says, Dallas first and second stringers batted down 4 passes last week, so let's hope that continues. Wonder if that's a Richard edition. It's a great point. In fact, that was one of my things to watch for that I wrote down, and that was trends. So I always say this when it comes to the regular season, but obviously this is also the case when it comes to the preseason. Because there's only 16 games in the regular season, we react and overreact to one game, one individual game. We always do it. This guy stinks because of how he played in this particular game. You have to look at 4-week trends, quarters, and do that in every sport. Doesn't matter how long the season is. Look at quarters. Look at trends that appear within 4 games of a season. That will tell you in a one-game situation, those can be anomalies, and a lot of times those end up being anomalies. But in 4 games, that's a trend. That's something that has some staying power. So now, again, this is just week 2 of the preseason, but look for trends. Look for things that will continue. 1 week of the defensive line, and you're absolutely right, Rick. The defensive line was active and batting down balls line of scrimmage, and that's not Richard. That's Rod Marinelli. That's his MO is defensive line. I know Richard has a big handle on the defense as a whole, but I mean the defensive line is Rod Marinelli's responsibility. That's his baby. That's what he's known for. He was, before he was a defensive coordinator, even a head coach, he was a defensive line coach. So that's definitely something. Trends are what to watch for here, week 2 of the preseason, and certainly, the batted balls they had. They had two batted balls that ended up as interceptions last week, and 4 batted balls last scrimmage, as Rick pointed out overall. The U says we also released Brian at the worst time for him. Yeah, I mean, I agree, dude. I agree. The Cowboys did Dez Bryant absolutely no favors by the time they released him. Horrible timing, and then of course, by basically calling him out for not knowing how to run routes and on and on and on. So I agree. They did Dez no favors. I think the Cowboys are better off for having released Dez. But that being said, though, I think they did Dez wrong. And Dez is as bad as he's been in recent history. He still scores touchdowns, and they're still going to need a guy that becomes a major threat for them in the red zone beyond the zone read, which I would argue is very, very deadly. Michael Ruff says, what backup quarterback is available other than Cap? I mean, that's another good question. Do people want to go with the veteran backup quarterback, or would you prefer, if you're a Cowboys fan, for them to go with these young guys, perhaps Mike White or Cooper Rush? My opinion of it is Dak's been healthy throughout the course of the time he's been here. I know that's not necessarily indicative of future, but, I mean, I'm okay with them not going after a veteran quarterback, but I also understand people that argue that they should go after a veteran quarterback as the backup. William Miner says Chris is the passing game coordinator, something they just made up, right? I mean, no, I've heard that before. I mean, not every team has a passing game coordinator, but I just think it's another way to basically call him another defensive coordinator. He's like the co-defensive coordinator, if you will. But that's a fair point. Let's see here. RLT third Dwerg. British. That just looks like a bunch of letters together, man. Yep, Dez can still score. All right, let me check back in on the Facebook page. By the way, I'm Ari Temkin, part of 105.3 The Fan. You can also catch me on the Dallas Cowboys pre- and post-game show along the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, where I do that with Jesse Holly. Very excited for the first home game of the regular season because we're going to be broadcasting live out in the West Plaza. Again, if you're coming out to the game, stop by and say hello. The West Plaza over there with Jesse Holly. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you aren't going to the game but you'd like to, go to SeatGeek. Oh, I did it right, kind of. I got it off the screen. Go to SeatGeek.com. Check out tickets. They have really cheap tickets, and especially if you use promo code Phantom, F-A-N-T-O-M, you're going to get $20 off your first order, so go do that right now. All right, check it back in. Phantom, Chris Bennett says Dez just left Cleveland without a deal. Man, is Dez Bryant really not going to play in the NFL this year? Like, that would be crazy. And it would seem to be because of him. Like, he turned down the Ravens deal. He I'm assuming, turned down Cleveland's deal. Maybe at this point he's just going to wait for final cuts or injuries and then be there, ready to go. It's bizarre, though, because his production has fallen off, no question, but he's still good enough to be on an NFL roster. It's absurd to think that he's not. And obviously this isn't like a Kaepernick situation where there's more than meets the eye when it comes to why he's not on the roster. Andy Kai says, does Scott Linehan actually know how to run a functioning NFL offense? I believe so. I mean, wasn't he once a head coach in the NFL? They don't just hire a head coach, who doesn't preside over a pretty productive offense, right? By the way, if you're watching this, hit the share button on Facebook. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. It would do me a big favor if you did that, and I would love you forever. Nikki Barnes says, Chaz Green, ... not for us, going to get quarterbacks hurt. I think the offensive line depth chart is interesting to look at. Obviously the locks, Zach Martin, Lyle Collins, Travis Frederick, Cam Fleming, Tyron Smith, Connor Williams. Wade Zetterberg says, I'm back, guys. Stop worrying about me. We're very worried, Wade. Joe Looney is also probably a lock. And then you're looking at, Marcus Martin's hurt. He's out for the year. So, Chaz Green will probably end up making this football team, truthfully. But the good news is, last year when Tyron Smith couldn't play, Chaz Green started in place of him. That's not going to be the case this year. Cam Fleming starts at left tackle if Tyron Smith goes down. So Nick Cate says 3 quarterbacks or 4. Nick, I would argue 2 quarterbacks or 3. Definitely not 4. I'm hoping not 3 because I'd rather them keep extra defensive backs. I'd rather them keep extra defensive linemen. I'd rather them keep extra wide receivers than keep a third quarterback. I think the issue is they drafted Mike White and they're pretty high on him, but he hasn't done anything to pass Cooper Rush on the depth chart. So that's tough. I guess the question is, what do you do? I mean, I don't think it's. I'm rooting for them to only keep 2 because I'd rather them keep extra numbers elsewhere. Jeremy Mandel says his head coach of the Lions, Linehan, figured out he should throw the ball to Calvin Johnson. Genius. Fair point. Also, my buddy just texted me to say that Robert Plant is playing on Dallas on 9/25. Interesting. Is he playing with Jimmy Page? Because that'd be cool. Harold Orozco? So what happened with Dez got here late? Well, according to the CB9000, is that right, Chris? CB9000? Dez left Cleveland without a deal. So, again, shocking that Dez Bryant, that we could be thinking about starting an NFL year without Dez Bryant on a team because of how good he still is. But he turned down the Ravens. He's apparently turned down the Browns. So we'll see what happens. Andy Kai says, I keep hearing depth chart. Depth. Everybody else hearing depth chart? Okay, let's see here. Somebody made a comment about standing for the national anthem. Okay, got it. Loud and clear. Let's see here. Law Nation Facebook page. Diego Maestas on the Law Nation Facebook page says, is T. Will going to face any suspension? No. And Robert Holmes says, so far, no. No. The NFL came out and said they will not suspend him. Suspended. The NFL already came out and said he will not face any suspension from that. Robert Holmes says, want to see more Christian Covington Saturday and see more snaps from Price. Thoughts? Yeah, agreed. Christian Covington's a guy they drafted. And I mean, again, look at that linebacking core. I mean, you've got Wilson, Leighton Vander Esch, Jalen Smith, Sean Lee, Joe Thomas, and then, Justin March Lillard, Chris Covington, Cal Cuero's been good. I don't know why Chris Cuero is very, very interesting, or Cal Cuero is very, very interesting to me because he was a safety at Northwestern. He was signed as an undrafted free agent at safety. They have a need at safety, and yet they moved him to linebacker, where he's going to be hard for him to make the football team. Very bizarre for me. All right, check it back into the Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page. Let's see here. Kevin Beck says Chaz got to go. The U says no, do not keep Chaz Green. Well, I mean, who else are you keeping? Here's the thing about Chaz Green: he can play the inside and the outside, so he's flexible there. You keeping? I mean, Marcus. I would have guessed that Tyron Smith, Cam Fleming, Joe Looney, Travis Frederick, Lyle Collins, Zach Martin, and Connor Williams, and then Marcus Martin would have all made the roster. But now I don't know. I mean, obviously Marcus Martin's out for the year. So, I mean, who is your, what would that be, 2, 4, 6, 7? Who's your 8th guy along the offensive line? Chaz Green, Kadeem Edwards, do you keep 7 and not, So, I mean, look, Chaz Green was horrible last year and was, in my opinion, because of the psychological impact that sustaining 15 sacks from Adrian Claiborne in the Atlanta game, the impact that had on the Cowboys as a whole and Dak Prescott as a whole, like that derailed the entire season. But, he hasn't been cut yet. He could play inside and outside. He could play tackle and guard, which gives them major flexibility. So, again, he was horrible last year, but Joe Looney's going to make this team as a backup. Cam Fleming's going to make this team as a backup. So who's the third offensive lineman as a backup? And Looney's an interior. Fleming's a tackle, so you need a guy that can play both. Joe Deasy says, Dez followed my old Twitter account. Go me, LOL. Wow, that's huge. Breaking news. Dez Bryant followed Joe Deasy on Twitter, and I'm not being facetious. That is impressive. He's not following me on Twitter. In fact, I'm a little bit jealous. Let's see here. Eric Koshaney says Josh Norn followed me and I blocked him. LOL. Man, I hope that's true. The U says I really like Cuero, but I don't think he'll make the team there at running at linebacker. No, he's not going to. I mean, you've got Thomas, Lee, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, Damon Wilson are locks, and then how many linebackers are you going to keep? 6 or 7. So then probably 6. So Justin March Lillard, Christian Covington, who's a draft pick. So, no, Cuero's not going to make this team as a linebacker. And so, again, why did they move him to linebacker? They haven't needed safety. It's so bizarre to me. It makes no sense. All right, let's see here. Maybe we signed a veteran guard if team cuts. True. But, again, it's not just that he can play guard. It's that he can play inside and outside, which is, it's a huge, huge, huge advantage. All right, let me just check in on the rest of the pages. I haven't even gotten to what I'm watching for in preseason week number 2, which I'll get into in a moment. But first, I want to at least run through some of these pages here on Facebook to make sure everybody's thoughts are heard. The 3 pages I check the most, and if you want to get your comments really heard quickly, would be the Phantom page, facebook.com/watchphantom. The Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page, and the Dallas Cowboys America's Team Facebook page, just to give you a heads up. But I'm trying to navigate through all these pages on my phone to try to get everybody's comments in there, so bear with me. Patrick Cardenas on the Dallas Cowboys Really Real Fan page says, the Garrett game plan calls for a great play and a solid lead throughout 2 hours and 50 minutes of the game, and then lose in the last 2 minutes of the game as he chews gum, pats players in the back, claps, Justice Brim. Fair point. Let's see if he adjusts that game plan this year. It's not necessarily a winning game plan. Let me also check out the Dallas Cowboys Report page, which is another one of our partners here at Phantom. Shout out to the Dallas Cowboys Report. And again, if you like good Cowboys content, make sure to check out all of these pages across all these platforms, and we're going to try to deliver all of them to you as much as we can on Phantom, the new world order of sports media, delivering live content to these social channels. William A. Rowe on Dallas Cowboys Report gives me the thumbs up. Did all that work just to check that and get the thumbs up. Cool. All right, what I'm watching for out of preseason week number 2, corners. In the week that I was at training camp, there was no better positional group than corners. They played well. They were flying around. Cheeto was the best player I saw at camp when I was there because he was just blanketing guys, and he was every time the ball was thrown his way, he was blocking passes away. I mean, he was a lockdown corner. Cheeto was a lockdown corner. We did not see that in preseason week number 1. We did not see the corners play well. Anthony Brown was bad. Cheeto had good coverage but got beat a few times. They had some flags deep down the field for pass interference. So I'm looking at the corners in week number 2 to see if, Chris Richard coached up this corners group, who probably got a little fat and happy after how well they'd played throughout the course of the start of training camp. The other thing I'm looking for is the deep ball because they've been working a lot of that on practice. We know the importance of the deep ball for the success of this offense. So I'm going to be watching and monitoring the deep ball. And, we saw it in week 1. We saw 3 for 3 from Dak Prescott, including that 30-yard touchdown pass to Michael Gallup. Perfect. Beautiful. And that's all I needed to see from Dak. So let's see more of that here in week 2 as, again, we're looking for trends. And then that's the last thing I'm looking for is trends. Trend with the deep ball, trends on the defensive line being active, batting down balls in last scrimmage, and trends with the linebackers. Linebackers flew around. Jalen Smith was making plays. Joe Thomas is making plays. I mean, when you look at team speed defense, you really look at the linebackers because those are the guys that have to cover a ton of space in a short amount of time. So when you look at a team with team speed on defense, that's attributable to linebackers. So when your team looks like it's flying around defensively, it's because your linebackers are flying around defensively. So, that is certainly something I'm going to be watching for in preseason week number 2. Trends, and I talked about this before, but when you look at the regular season in football, you should always look at 4-week increments. That's a quarter of the season, which is, which can tell you a lot about what the team is going to be. 1 week can be an anomaly, but 4 weeks can be a trend. Obviously, this is just week 2 of the preseason, but you want to look for things as trends are being established. Joe Tranchina says, I think Dez should go to the Patriots. They need a deep threat. Yeah, I was kind of surprised that they didn't look at him, especially because they signed, what's his name, Eric Decker. So surprised they didn't sign Dez over Decker, but that's neither here nor there. Actually, I guess it is both here and there. All right. And then the last thing I wanted to get to today was this one. There we go. There we go. Jason Garrett, Coach of the Year candidate? What? So throughout this week, I did over-unders for teams in the Cowboys division. And just to recap, because I'm giving you, some ideas to go to betdsi.com, Use promo code PHANTOM, and they're going to match 100% of your initial deposit. What? So I went to betdsi.com, signed up for an account, used promo code PHANTOM, F-A-N-T-O-M, and I put in $100, got another $100 to play with. So I took the over 10.5 wins for the Eagles. Call me crazy. I think the Eagles are going to win this division. Bear with me, Cowboys fans. I also took the over on the Cowboys at 8.5. I think the Cowboys finish second at 10-6 and make the playoffs. Thank you. I had the Giants over 7 wins. I think this division is going to be really, really good. I love the offensive firepower of the Giants. I don't think the Giants make the playoffs, but I think they're over 7 wins, somewhere in the 8-8, 9-7 area. And then I took the under for the Redskins at 6.5. I think they're going to be horrible. So today, since I went through this entire week, every day, Monday I did the Giants, Tuesday I did the Eagles, Wednesday I did the Redskins, Thursday I did the Cowboys. Today I want to do what I think could be an interesting gamble for you to make at betdsi.com. So again, go to betdsi.com, use promo code PHANTOM, F-A-N-T-O-M, and place a bet on Jason Garrett as the Coach of the Year in 2018. Now, you only have to do a small bet because Jason Garrett has the 19th best odds to win Coach of the Year. He is plus 2,200 on BetDSI. That means, simply put, you bet $1 to win $22. So think about that. You bet $5, do the math. You bet $10, do the math. So, I mean, you could put a $10 bet on Jason Garrett winning Coach of the Year and get a humongous return if it hits. And if we want to go off of trends, and here's maybe the most important reason why I'm saying you should potentially make a bet on Jason Garrett for Coach of the Year. One, because it pays a ton of money out, and two, because look at the Cowboys' recent history. And Tom Ryle from Blog of the Boys pointed this out to me, but it's important to note. Every other year, the Cowboys are good. They have a disappointing year, and then they make the playoffs. They have a disappointing year, and then they make the playoffs. Well, now they're on they're on the line of good season, making the playoffs, and Coach of the Year, which we've seen from Jason Garrett, what, twice? Has he won Coach of the Year twice? And it's always been in that off year. So he's certainly, this is the trend. This is the trend year for him to win. And I think the last piece to this, the point I'll make is we talked about creativity on offense. And remember, and I continue to hamper this point, but it's really, really important to note. In the Dak Prescott era, when Tyron Smith is healthy in the lineup, when Zeke Elliott is healthy in the lineup, they have a top 5 offense. So, when they don't have Tyron Smith or Zeke Elliott, it's a different story. So if you assume that Tyron Smith will play in 16 games, Zeke Elliott will play in 16 games, those two things, and those two things alone are the reason that the Cowboys are going to have a top 5 offense. And then you mix in the creativity that we've seen from them so far at training camp, and you've got the potential for this offense to be fairly explosive. All right, checking again back into the Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page. Let's see here. Kevin Beck says, Eagles offense looked bad last night. Team Ortiz Boxing says, don't see Eagles getting over 10.5 wins, just saying. I wonder why you think that. The reason, and the reason I said that over 10.5 was because, they have a lot of talent. We know that. But they also, Doug Peterson is really smart at understanding the analytics behind, what can be successful plays, play calling, personnel groupings. The Eagles were really, really, really good in the red zone last year. They were number 1 or number 2 in red zone offense, which is a really important metric, obviously. And the biggest reason for them being successful in the red zone was their tight end play. They have really good pass catchers at tight end, and so they constantly cashed in with their tight ends in the red zone. In fact, in fantasy football, pick the Eagles' tight ends. Pick Zach Ertz and pick Dallas Goedert because they're major, major red zone targets that will continue to be so. The best red zone offenses in the NFL utilize their tight ends. Go look at it. Look at the metrics from last year. Look at the best top 5 red zone offenses. I guarantee you those are all teams that had really, really good pass-catching tight ends. The U says, yeah, kick rocks. Sorry. I'm going to give you unbiased Dallas Cowboys talk. And again, I think it's funny because some people get mad at me because I pick the Eagles to win the division and go over 10.5 wins. Other people get mad at me because I'm placating to Cowboys fans because I say they're going to win 10 games and make the playoffs, so you're just not going to win either way. Let's see here. Kevin Melton. Why is Melton a... Oh, you meant Kevin Melton. Melton seems to be pretty anti-Cowboys here, or anti-Dak. I'm not really sure. Kevin, again, just look at the metrics. This is factually accurate to say. In the Dak Prescott era, when Tyron Smith and Zeke Elliott are in the lineup, They're a top 5 offense. That's important to note. It's not just all about Zeke. That's really important. And by the way, Kevin Melton, anti-Dak, this is just year 3. So if he's a bus driver now, that's okay. If he's a bus driver like Alex Smith in year 10, you've got problems. But being a bus driver in year 3 is fine, especially because the biggest step forward that he's got to take in his career will be this season. All right. Thank you to everybody who spent some time commenting on today's stream. Thank you to the Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page. Check me out every day, noon Central, Monday through Friday, right here on the Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page, on the Phantom YouTube page, on Facebook.com/Watch Phantom, across the Dallas Cowboys America's Team page, Law Nation's Facebook page, Silver and Blue Nation's page, the Dallas Cowboys Really Real fan page, Dallas Cowboys Report, all those great pages, partners of ours. And, of course, check me out tomorrow night on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, because I'll be doing the pre- and post-game show with Jesse Holley. All right, again, thank you, everybody, for checking the stream out. Thanks to all of the commenters, Chris Bennett, Wade Zetterberg, Joe Deasy, Eric Koshaney, Andy Caius, The U, Law Nation, Team Ortiz Boxing, Kevin Beck, all you guys, Robert Holm, Joe Tranchina. Thanks to all the folks that join me every single day. G. Garcia, thank you to all. Hopefully, if